Leading the Nightline tonight, the second phase of the 2026 Sarawak Basic Needs Contribution, or SKAS, is scheduled for distribution on May 15, 2026, involving an allocation of 179.6 million ringgit. While the third phase will take place on November 10, 2026, with a total allocation of 180.6 million ringgit. Deputy State Secretary Dr. Abdullah Zaidal said the total SKAS distribution for 2026 will be carried out in three phases, with a total allocation of 539.8 million ringgit throughout the year to ensure continuous assistance for eligible recipients. The first phase of the SKAS distribution will take place tomorrow on March 10, 2026, involving an allocation of 179.6 million ringgit. According to him, a total of 857,814 recipients have been identified as eligible to receive the assistance based on the data of recipients under the Sumbangan Tunai Rahmah, or STR, Phase 1 for 2026. Iran fired missiles at Israel and Gulf nations early Monday after the Islamic Republic named Mojtaba Khamenei its new leader to succeed his late father, despite threats by the United States and Israel to target him next. 9 days after US-Israeli strikes killed Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and plunged the Middle East into war, Iranian clerics picked the country's third supreme leader since the 1979 Islamic Revolution.
Israel launched a new wave of strikes, this time targeting infrastructure in central Iran as the expanding war sends stocks plunging and crude prices surging by 30% amid fears of supply disruptions. Saudi Arabia intercepted drones headed for an eastern oil field, while the UAE and Kuwait reported missile attacks, and Bahrain says sirens were activated. Khamenei's appointment was announced on Iranian state television, with the presenter solemnly reading a statement from the 88-member Assembly of Experts next to a picture of the new 56-year-old leader. Khamenei is appointed and introduced as the third leader of the sacred system of the Islamic Republic of Iran, based on the decisive vote of the respected representatives of the Assembly of Experts. It said that clerical body did not hesitate for a minute in choosing a new leader, despite the brutal aggression of the criminal America and the evil Zionist regime. But U.S. President Donald Trump had previously dismissed the Mojtaba Khamenei as a lightweight and insisted again on Sunday that he should have a say in appointing a new leader.
China says it opposes any threats made against the newly appointed leader of Iran after his appointment early today, succeeding his slain father, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Mojtaba Khamenei received threats from Israel and the US as the decision did not go in tandem with the United States Accord. China's Foreign Ministry spokesman Hu Jiakun says China calls for an immediate ceasefire and that Iran's sovereignty, security and territorial integrity should be respected.
中方反对以任何借口干涉他国内政，伊朗的主权安全和领土完整应当得到尊重。中方呼吁立即停止军事行动，尽快重回对话谈判，避免紧张局势进一步升级。
Separately, Guo says China strongly condemns the attack on UN interim forces in Lebanon and expressed sympathy with the injured. China also vows to secure its energy supplies amid the ongoing military conflict in the Middle East. The statement from China, which is highly dependent on energy imports from Gulf nations, comes amid the closure of the Strait of Hormuz in the Persian Gulf, which has seen a sharp drop in maritime traffic. It is a key route that carries about 20 million barrels of oil daily.
Global crude oil prices rise past $100 per barrel early this morning after several major producers in West Asia cut output following the continued closure of the Strait of Hormuz amid the Iran-United States-Israel conflict. Following the latest spike, economic analysts say the development could increase pressure on Malaysia's fuel import costs and government subsidy spending if oil prices remain elevated for an extended period.
Chief Economist of Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad, Dr. Muhammad Afzanizam Abdul Rashid, says the rise in global crude oil prices directly affects Malaysia's fuel import costs as part of the country's domestic petrol supply still depends on imported sources. The situation also increases the government's financial burden to maintain subsidized fuel prices for the public.
Jadi apabila harga minyak mentah meningkat, maka harga untuk mengimport juga meningkat dan juga secara langsungnya akan meningkatkan kos untuk mengekalkan struktur subsidi yang sedia ada.
He explains that movements in global crude oil prices have a significant impact on the amount of subsidies the government needs to bear each year.
Sebagai contoh, pada tahun 2022, yang mana pada ketika itu harga minyak mentah Brent berada di paras purata $99 setung. Subsidi yang diberikan ataupun jumlah subsidi yang dibelanjakan untuk petroleum adalah sekitar 23.1 bilion. Manakala pada tahun 2024, pada ketika itu harga minyak mentah Brent puratanya menurun ke paras 79.9 setung dan ini menyebabkan subsidi yang dikeluarkan oleh kerajaan untuk petroleum menurun ke paras 19.7 bilion ringgit. Ini bererti pergerakan minyak mentah ini memberi kesan langsung kepada subsidi yang diberikan oleh pihak kerajaan lah.
The ongoing conflict in West Asia is also creating uncertainty in global markets, including currency markets.
Sudah pasti itu yang akan terus berlaku kerana perkara ini ataupun peperangan di Iran ni banyak menimbulkan banyak persoalan dari segi tempoh masa bagaimana peperangan ini akan terus berlaku, apakah implikasi kepada perdagangan antarabangsa, apakah harga minyak akan terus kekal tinggi. Jadi adakah dia akan melibatkan konflik serantau pula di kawasan GCC dan sebagainya. Jadi banyak persoalan-persoalan yang masih belum dapat dijawab dengan jelas.
The situation could trigger negative sentiment in global financial markets, while he adds that it could also potentially cause fluctuations or volatility in currency markets, including the Malaysian ringgit.
And Malaysians are growing increasingly concerned that the prolonged war in the Middle East could have a ripple effect on the country's economy. Among the main worries are potential sanctions and disruptions to global trade, which could push up the prices of goods and put pressure on consumers' purchasing power.
Ini satu concern yang sangat serius ni. So kalau sepatut untuk kita, rakyat pun sekarang tak senang ni. Rasa-rasa war pun ada efek ni banyak ni.
So macam nak kata bila kenaikan harga disebabkan kes yang dekat luar tu, kita faham benda tu dah jadi, kita tak boleh nak buat apa kan. Tapi bila kenaikan dekat dalam negara kita ni tinggi, kesian lah dekat macam orang-orang yang baru bekerja, macam family yang ramai anak.
Mungkin ada sedikit kenaikan, tapi selalunya kita yang memang biasa dan suka memasak ni, untuk bahan dapur ni kita akan pejam mata sebelah. Sebab kat mana pun memang kena akan masak. Sebab bila kita compare harga barang yang kita beli untuk masak di rumah dan makan di luar, memang akan ada perbezaan orang kata apa, harga yang banyak kan.
Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim on Saturday advises the public to spend prudently as the prolonged conflict is also affecting global trade routes. Currently, global crude oil prices have surged more than 40% to above $90 per barrel as of Sunday. The increase is expected to affect logistics costs and the prices of goods, raising concerns among the public. Some people say they are adapting to the situation while urging the government to maintain existing subsidies.
So harga petrol ini saya rasa kerajaan patut kontrol lagi. Dari segi harga subsidi itu patut dilanjutkan. Kalau ikut macam 2 bulan yang disarankan, so kalau ikut lebih lagi. Sebab kita kat Malaysia saya rasa majoriti tak bersedia sangat dari segi kenaikan ni semua.
Meanwhile, others stress the importance of saving, saying the advice given should serve as a guide to avoid excessive spending.
For long term, that is where kita kena keep whatever emergency fund, and then kita kena make sure that kita punya food supply is sufficient, and somehow kita perlu juga memastikan education for the children is also maintained.
Meanwhile, the government will continue efforts to maintain the price of RON95 petrol at R1.99 per litre, despite rising global crude oil prices. Prime Minister Dr. Sri Anwar Ibrahim says the move is aimed at ensuring fuel prices remain under control while easing the burden of the people.
Walaupun kita tahu ketimbang negara-negara lain masih terkawal. Harga minyak hari ini, harga Brent satu barrel sudah naik $100 Amerika. Kita masih bertahan dengan RM1.99, Budi 95. Dan kita akan jalankan ikhtiar semaksimum mungkin supaya tidak membebankan rakyat.
The Prime Minister also stressed that Malaysia remains consistent in voicing support for Iran in defending its sovereignty following the conflict that erupted after an attack by Israel with the backing of the United States. However, Anwar also expressed concern over the impact of retaliatory strikes, which have also affected civilian areas and neighboring countries.
Sarawak's Department of Health and Safety DOSH issues 6 prohibition notices to a construction company following a freak accident that took place at a construction site of a school in Simunjan on February 27. The victim, a 67-year-old man, was pronounced dead by medical personnel at the scene. All construction work was suspended by the DOSH until proper safety measures are in place. The case is now being investigated under the Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994.
Initial findings reveals that the victim was not an employee of the subcontractor involved in the project. Fact sheet also states that a scream was heard when lifting work was conducted, prompting colleagues to investigate and found the victim was trapped beneath one of the concrete blocks that had been resting on the I-beam structure. The victim's body was later handed over to the police for further action. DOSH also states if violations of the Act are found, those responsible could face a fine of up to 500,000 ringgit, a prison sentence of up to 2 years, or both.
And airline shares traded lower today following a spike in crude oil prices, with Brent crude hovering above $105 per barrel amid the escalating US-Israeli war with Iran. At the time of writing, Brent crude rose 24.81% to $115.7 per barrel.
At 9:47 a.m., shares of Hong Kong's Cathay Pacific decreased 5.8%, while Australia's Qantas fell 5.7%, Japan Airlines slipped 4.8%, and Singapore Airlines went down 3.3%. Back home, Bursa Malaysia Berhad has suspended the intraday short-selling IDSS of AirAsia X Berhad AAX shares until 8:30 a.m. tomorrow. At 11:01 a.m., AAX declined 21 cents or 16.41% to RM1.07 per share, with 69.74 million shares traded, while Capital A eased 4.5 cents to 38.5 cents per share, with 85.94 million shares traded. At least 8 countries announced the closure of their respective airspaces when the conflict erupted on February 28th, including Iran, Iraq, Jordan, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and the UAE. According to news reports, some 27,000 flights to the Middle East have been cancelled since last Saturday, affecting thousands of passengers.
I'm Charles Schmato. Thank you for watching and have a good night.